This is Nina Lockwood. Welcome to Get Your Happy Back. Stories and insights that will inspire you to find new sources of happiness in your own life. Ever wonder what it would be like to take the guardrails off your own life and just explore what life has to offer you with curiosity and wonder and openness? As Kristy would say, to follow the tickles of your own heart. So if that sounds good to you, please enjoy this conversation because we certainly did. Hi, and get your happy back. That's where we are today. And boy, do I have the pleasure of talking with Kristy Halvorsen. Hi, Kristy.
Hi, Nina. I'm so thankful to be here. I'm
Oh my,
excited to see where we're going to go.
me too. Well, that's the whole point, right?
Yep.
So for those of us, or those of you who haven't listened to our conversations before, this one might be a little bit different. We're going to just kind of meander through our conversation as if we were all sitting in our living room together having a chat or at our favorite restaurant hanging out together. So, Kristy, I'm only going to say a couple words about you, which of course won't do you justice, but it's our little jumping off point. So you've been an explorer, a tour guide in a much larger sense than we normally think of it, a coach, and an advocate of simplicity and wonder and curiosity, and 7 years of solo travel in your Airstream.
Mhm.
How did that happen? How did you come to even do that?
Yeah, I didn't mean to. I had this dream of traveling in an RV of some sort when I retired from the fire department. And as a firefighter, you get to retire at a rather young age. And so I was going to retire early at 50. And then in my mid 30s, I got sick from an exposure to some chemicals at the fire department. And then I hurt my knee really bad when I was just getting better from that, and then I hurt my knee really bad, and I was like, this job might be trying to kill me. And even if it doesn't, I don't know, I don't know the shape my body's going to be in, 15 years from now. Why wait till I'm 50? Like, what if I just did something crazy now? And I had a partner, Jim, at the time, and I invited him, like, what do you think? And it was my dream, and yet he was like, okay, so I'm in. And so it took a few years of planning, and we tried like a really small trailer because we never owned an RV before, and we just loved it. And so we decided to do it, and I thought it'd take 5 years. So I planned, this was in 15, so I thought, oh, by 2020 let's hit the road. And then by 17, like, all the puzzle pieces had fallen into place. And then Jim and I split. And I really thought, there's no way I could do this on my own. Like, I don't even know how I can make enough money wandering around on a single income, and I don't know how to fix things. Jim was like a MacGyver. He could always fix anything. And I knew how to fix a few things, but it was just, I was making up all these reasons why I can't do it now. Like, my dream was over. And thankfully my mom, kicked me in the butt in a really loving way and was like, what are you thinking? Like, you're capable. You do this stuff all the time on your own. Like, get out there. And so, again, thanks to my mom, I said okay, and I sold my house and pretty much everything that doesn't fit in the truck or the Airstream, and in November of 17 hit the road with, and it was a big experiment. I'm like, rumor has it you can just live by your heart. I like to call it the tickles of your soul. And so I literally just went off without really knowing where I was going or what I was up to. And that was the beginning. And here we are, you know.
That's really, the tickles of your soul, that is such a wonderful phrase. And to me, I've been really on this pursuit lately of talking about true self-expression. And I think they're very similar from the way you're describing it, because if we don't follow that tickle, what are we doing? Right? It's just, that quote by the poet Mary Oliver, what will you do with your wild and precious life? If we
Mm,
keep living by other people's expectations, what happens to the wild and precious life?
yeah, exactly. And even our own expectations. It's not even other people sometimes. It's our own shoulds.
Hmm.
And I like how you said expectations, because we'll predict where we want to be in a certain amount of time or what we want to be doing. And then we get stuck in the rut of trying to, quote, make that happen. And I've just seen through the journey, again, it was an experiment. In my first year, I have to be upfront and honest, the first year was really rough. Like, I was like, if it was easy to buy my house back, get my job back, back, I would have just been, you know what? My bad. I This is not what I was expecting. But thankfully I couldn't. My house was gone, my job was gone, and I was just kind of lost, and at the same time being like, I don't know, I'm just going to give this a good run. But I really wasn't happy. But then what I realized was happening was I was shedding all the ideas I had about how to live a life that I'd been taught my whole life. And it took about a year and a half to really fall into this space of truly letting go of the shoulds, listening to the tickles, and not caring so much what other people thought I should be up to.
Yeah, it's so great. And you're right about how oppressive it is to be living under other people's expectations. You know, should I say this? Am I going to look good? What are they going to think of me? Will they still like me? I shouldn't do this, but what a way to live a life.
Yeah. Yeah. And what a way not to live a life.
Exactly.
You know, I joke around that nature got a hold of me, because that's another cool thing about the way I live that a lot of people
Mm.
don't know. They think, oh, you're traveling around staying in campgrounds and whatever RV resorts. And I despise campgrounds. Like, nothing wrong with people that enjoy campgrounds, but I want to be out in nature, just raw nature. I don't even want to have electricity. I set my rig up. Oops, my heater just came in. Turn that off. I set my Airstream up. Her name's Cotty, so I can live fully off grid. And I just love being immersed in nature. And so again, that first year, I didn't know that. So there was a lot of trial and errors. And I really found out I don't like campgrounds, and I don't like, quote, civilization as much as I just love the wild. But nature, she got a hold of me, and she rewilded me. And I tell
Mm.
people that, like, I feel like I went feral in a really, really beautiful way, in so many ways, you know. And that again, it's just going back to how we were meant to live.
Yeah. So, two questions. One is explain to people Coddy comes from Cottywomple and
Yes.
what that means, and how we could live that way even if we don't go on the road on our solo adventures.
Yes, I'm glad you asked that. So cottywomple is a really cool word, and I didn't make it up. Rumor has it came from the UK somewhere a while back, but it was in the definition I had found when I first saw it. When I saw this word in 2016, and it literally, I saw this word and it was like, I'm like, that's it. This is me. This is the way I want to live.
Cupid's arrow. Boing.
Yes. Like, I just remember exactly where I was the moment I first saw the word cottywomple, and I'm like, oh my gosh. And I knew in that moment I didn't own an Airstream. I was like, oh, my Airstream's name is Cottywomple, and all I had to do was find her. She's out there somewhere waiting for our connection. But the word cottywomple, I decided to put a definition to it, like a proper one. And my hope is one day it'll be in the dictionary, just like Google is. So there's three definitions. The first is to travel purposefully towards unknown destinations. And people are like, what do you say purposefully? I'm like, well, purposefully doesn't actually mean you have to have a purpose. It just means you're not just willy-nilly, who knows. You're actually following these nudges, the tickles of your soul, following your heart, your inner wisdom, whatever you want to call that. And you aren't focused at all on where you're going to end up. You're just taking one step at a time and seeing where you're going. So that's definition one. Definition two is to be open to unlimited possibilities.
Mm.
Because so often we get focused and we don't see all the possibilities. So it's being open and just like being in wonder and curiosity and being open to anything. And then the third definition is to unpredict your future.
Yeah.
So we don't realize it, but we say, oh, this is going to happen, and then we get really upset when it doesn't. And it might even derail us listening to the tickles of our soul if we think we know what's going to happen, what we need to do. And so that's the essence of cottywampling. It's just taking a deep breath, taking one single step and not thinking much further ahead than that. And then once you've taken that step, like wait until you're drawn to take another. And I love that you said this is not about travel. It can apply to travel, but it's about every single thing in life: relationships, work, fun, pleasure, anything, anything, writing, painting. All the creative arts are really good at this. But my question for everyone is, what if we brought this into the heart of how we live in every day?
Absolutely. Because everything you're saying before we had our call today, I was thinking, okay, so Kristy's had this incredible experience of being on the road, all of these amazing people she's met, and immersion in nature in these wild and wonderful places. And how do you do that at home if you have family, a house, cats or dogs, or other people and situations that are your responsibility? And how do you do that? And that to me goes back to that question of true self-expression. I mean, you could get such incredible joy of making something you've never made before if you're willing to step into the unknown. And I know that's something you've had a lot of experience doing. Even something as simple as making a meal. What if I put this together? Or painting. I don't know what's going to happen. What colors want to come to the party? Let's just see. So I'd love you to talk a little bit more about that how that can really transform your life, because you were talking earlier about how your first book event was actually a transformational experience.
Yeah, and it was a Cottywumple. And yeah, so it's interesting you mentioned the book event, because I had a book event on Saturday. And a lot of people think, well, most authors would plan some things to read, and I don't know, just plan it all out.
Something.
And I showed up and I kind of just gave a little synopsis, like, here's kind of what the book's about. And by the way, like, we're gonna Cottywumple this. We're like, I'll start. I had an idea of something to read to begin with, just to kind of set us off. And I said, and beyond that, this I hope not to be talking that much. Let's discuss, share, explore together. And it was brilliant. And that's a great example of a Cottywumple. And people there got so much out of it. It was a transformational experience for all of us.
Mm.
And time flew. And there's another kind of like, it's interesting when you're Cottywampling. A lot of times you don't even realize the time has passed. So the best way I can describe just doing it in your normal life is you let go of any shoulds, and you trust that you're not gonna be irresponsible. People think, oh my gosh, if I literally Cottywumpled every day all my life, I would be like broken on the streets. you know
Right.
but the tickles of your soul take everything into consideration. The universe, God, doesn't want you to be homeless and broke on the streets. Although I have some of the most incredible people I've ever met are homeless, and they're wonderful. So maybe that is your journey, but for most of us, it's not. So you let go of all your shoulds, and you just let yourself be drawn.
Mm.
And it's interesting because you go in to do things, normal everyday things, without these expectations we normally have, or time constraints. And I did a Cottywumple with a young man on Sunday, and we had 10 minutes or 15 minutes. And he told me afterwards, he confessed, he says, I know you said don't plan anything, but I actually was like, I'm going to go skateboard in the driveway. you know, and he's in his 30s. He's not like 12 or anything. And I'm thinking, oh, that sounds awesome. He told me this after. He says, you wouldn't believe it. I went to do that and something caught my eye. And so I broke down some boxes. He's like, we had a bunch of boxes in the hall. So I was like, oh, I'll do this. And then I fixed something on his keychain. And then he did something else. And then he's like, and then I looked at my watch and I still had 5 minutes. So I went out and skateboarded in the driveway. And like, he told me everything he did. And he came back and he goes, oh my gosh, that was amazing. It just felt light and airy and fun. And I said, it's incredible how much you actually got done in this. I think might have been 12 minutes. It's somewhere between 10 and 15 minutes. And you skateboarded in the driveway. And so And you know, this is a really fresh example, but what happened to him is the essence of cattywampling. He didn't know, even though he thought he knew, he was just open, and he saw some things along the way to the driveway. And a lot of people would look at what he did, and even he said, I can't believe all that got done in like 10 minutes or less. So the point is not to get stuff done, but I'm just saying that you might actually find yourself like having almost superpowers
Yeah.
because you don't have anything on it. You're
Right.
not thinking, you're just being yourself. Is that, I don't even know if that was a wonderful, great explanation, but do you think the
I
listeners can
liked it.
understand? Okay.
You're reminding me, you are one of two women that I know who have gone on solo journeys for extended period of time. One woman, Bernice Ende, who is no longer with us, became what's known as a lady long rider. She which means you have to ride a minimum of, I think, 1,000 miles on your own. And she rode for, I think, 11 years. And I think she did something like 35,000 miles. She came across the country from Montana, went south, went up, back around, and then up through Canada and back to Montana. And you can imagine seeing a woman with a big sombrero and a dog traveling just because
Right.
she was, as you sound like you were, disillusioned with your life, knew she needed to do something else. The first trip she took was down to New Mexico from Montana. She had not done this kind of thing before, although she grew up with horses and on a farm. And that was her trial by fire. But what she said to me, and she said this always happened to her, whenever she got into a bind or it looked like it was impossible, somebody, somewhere, somehow always came to her rescue.
Yeah.
And I think that that's something for those of us who aren't doing these kinds of extravagant, wonderful adventures, that we need to remember, even on this daily basis of those of us who are relatively sedentary, that we don't have to worry about what's going to happen or whether we're going to get in trouble or something bad is, if you focus on it, you're likely to draw it to yourself. But just that idea of taking off the guardrails and being able to, by direct experience, realize that life does have your back and what you're doing is the right thing for you, that you can't get it wrong.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I love you're dropping little bombs here because I love the part you just said about you can't get it wrong because that's a big part of cattywampling is being in in a space, a really special space of knowing or at least inquiring. Like if you feel stuck in a decision, is saying, what would I do if I knew I couldn't get this wrong?
Right.
Like if I really, really knew there's no wrong turn. Like a lot of times our our choice at that point is completely opposite of what we might normally do. Because often what we normally do is follow the script, listen to the shoulds, do what we think we need to.
Right.
And then when we ask that question, if I knew I couldn't get this wrong, what would I do? We're more apt to follow the the tickles of our soul, follow our heart,
Yeah.
follow where we're truly drawn and not where we think we need to go.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
One of my favorite questions that a friend of mine said was on her resume. Uh, Kathleen Fife said she had this mantra, what else is possible?
Mhm.
If we're doing something very mundane and it's draining our energy, just to have that kind of a question in mind. Well, what else could we do? What else is possible here?
Yeah.
What else? And we follow that kind of a tickle is so much more fun.
It is. It is more fun. And you know, and a lot of people have come back to me and shared the things that would normally feel like they drain their energy don't anymore,
Yeah.
you know? And there can be all kinds of theories on why that is true. But it is true. You know, we're less likely to feel drained or fatigued or tired when we're living true to ourselves like this.
Yeah.
And it is a direct experience. Like there's nothing you can do to learn how to quote do this without actually just jumping in. You can't listen to a podcast or read a book or watch a YouTube or go to a class and actually understand what we're talking about. You
Hmm.
got to just jump in and in your own special way, give it a whirl.
Yeah. I love that. And I think what you're saying is so relevant to this question about excuse me, how do we how do we be happy, and stay happy? And I was thinking the other day that one of the simplest ways to be happy is to notice all the little wonderful things, not the big scary things. Like it's like the story of David and Goliath, and noticing all the little things is David. Because when you're, as you say, when you're open, when you're present, when you're willing to just step out of the confines of your box just a little bit, then you do start noticing, oh my gosh, look at that dewdrop, or look at that cardinal, or look at that gorgeous man or woman, not because necessarily they're beautiful, but they have so much life in their face.
Yeah. Yeah, like it's just what you're describing is wonder and curiosity. And even
Yeah.
a friend of mine pointed this out to me a few weeks ago. It's because she's like, you just seem so enchanted by life. And I was like, oh, what a beautiful word. Like, oh, yes. Like, what if we were all enchanted by life, even when it's really hard, you know?
Right.
Because it looks to me like it's impossible to stay happy. That's not what we're here to do. Like, we are on this roller coaster ride, and there's ups and downs and twists and turns, and yet peace and contentment and joy and love, it's the essence of who we are. And even though we get to feel other feelings and have other emotions and be angry and be sad and be joyful and be, you name it, when more often than not, when we're living the way we're describing, we will live in this space of contentment and love and peace.
Yeah.
And some will call that happy and some will call it something else. But that's a to me, being enchanted, being in wonder and curiosity, listening to our tickles, not shoulding, not bowing down to doing what society has taught us, but truly living for the truth of who we are. Like more often than not, we're going to be in that lovely space.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
when we're not, when life throws things in our path, even if we are really sad or we're grieving or we're angry, there's a subtle knowingness underneath it all. And
Yeah.
that's the title of my book is, I know this is the perfect unfolding. It is. How could it not be?
Yeah.
And so when things really stink and I'm like, why is this even happening? It's not for me to know. But it takes it to a more peaceful space. I can be
Mhm.
completely not happy in the moment and at the same time have this underlying feeling of, yeah, and I don't know why and I don't understand how or what's going to happen, but I know this too is a part of the perfect unfolding.
That's such a beautiful way of expressing it. And to me, that's what real happiness is that
Yeah.
you can have the storm going on, raging around you or inside you, and yet there is still a part of you beneath that that says, okay, here we are.
Yeah. Yeah. Buckle up.
That's right.
Yeah.
It could be
Yeah.
more fun than you think.
Exactly. Well, the thing is, we all think, not we all, I don't want to be speaking for everyone, but a lot of us think that we just want a lovely life.
Right.
Like, and I give the metaphor of like, a lot of people think, well, if you had the chance to go do something wild and crazy, a lot of people would pay good money to do wild and crazy things. And wild and crazy could just mean, I don't know, just going on an adventure for a day or two, or it could be going to a theme park, or who knows, it could be anything.
Right.
People pay really good money
Zip,
to actually be
zip drive.
scared and
Yeah,
stuff.
those zip rides.
The zip lines, yeah. People pay really good money to be scared and thrilled and all those things. And say you're up for spending 50 or $100 to do something like that. to get the, to have a little thrill. If I said, you know what, I got a deal for you. You give me that same amount of money, whatever you're willing to spend, 50, $100, and I'll put you in a little red wagon, and I'll take you around the neighborhood on the sidewalk. We'll do it every day for 4 hours for a week. Like, what a deal. Most people will be like, that sounds fun. Like who wants to be drug around a little red wagon around the neighborhood for 4 hours a day for a week? That's just boring. But people don't realize that's what they think they want in life.
Oh, what a good analogy.
They don't want that. They think they want it, and they spend their whole lives being upset they're not in a little red wagon, having this perfectly calm, normal, like, but life with no ups and downs. And it's like, actually, just let go. You just think you want that, but you don't.
Right.
Or else you wouldn't even pay $10 to go to a movie, because it's the same thing. You go to a movie to experience all these emotions you wouldn't have if you were not in the movie.
Right.
But you don't pay $10 to go to a movie and just be bored. That you'd be like, that's an awful movie.
You'd walk out.
Yeah, exactly. But yet we think we want that in life.
Yeah. Well, aren't we raised to believe that?
Yeah.
It starts from our families and schools and then larger institutions, and before we know it, we're doing something that somebody else wants us to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
What keeps you going in your darker moments?
I think it's just that. I mean, going back to the wonder and the enchantment and curiosity, you know, I this year has been full of those moments. It's been a
Mhm.
it's been a doozy of a year, which started like after Christmas last year. So after Christmas last year till now, it's been probably the toughest year of my life.
Mm.
And not just for me, for several people I love. And at the same time, there's been so many tears. But just when we really allow every single emotion, like the whole rainbow of emotions, just to flow through, and we don't fight it, and we don't want it to go away, we can just be really, really sad. And we can just be really, really happy. And we can be, and it's amazing how in a single day you can go through lots of different emotions and be really okay with being all of that,
Yeah.
feeling all of that.
Yeah.
Because it's not actually, I mean, I said that wrong, because who we are at our core is not anything we're feeling. We're never actually sad. We're just feeling sad.
Yeah.
And again, it goes back to what I said a few minutes ago. I get, even in my saddest spaces, I'm actually curious. Like, I know this is part of the grand unfolding of life, and I don't know what's going to come of it. And I'm curious about what's going to come through this.
Mm.
You know, I'm curious about what I'll see. Because to me, every time I'm in a spot where it feels extra sticky, I'm just bumping up against a misunderstanding. So I'm really open to understanding life better. And so even in the really hard spots, to me, it's a journey, it's an adventure. It's not an adventure I would have chosen,
But you
you know?
did, or something in you did,
Yeah,
or something did for you,
yeah, all of that, you know?
and you said yes.
Yes, exactly. And that's, I have a book I started years ago, and I just got to a point, one, I felt like I couldn't write anymore, and two, I was like, I don't think we know how this book plays out yet. And the book is about me and my mom's personal journey. We've had an incredible personal journey, both really hard times and really beautiful times. And my mom's been on a cancer journey for 14 years. And the book's called Terminal Gifts,
Wow. Beautiful.
because there's so many gifts, like unbelievable, incredible gifts that have come from this journey that my family's been on with my mom for so long. And we'd never wish it on anyone,
Mm.
but none of us would be who we are, where we are, without this beautiful gift that came in something that didn't look like a gift at all.
Mm. Mm. I have often heard that from people who have gone through the process of cancer or some other uh, almost terminal condition. who said it was exactly that, the best gift that they could have received because it made them more engaged with life and able to appreciate all the things that we're talking about, the little things as well as the big things, connection, relationship, just life giving us so much without our putting in a requisition for it.
Exactly. Yeah, and you just made me think about, and I've seen this several times in life over the years, many times, about how things that don't seem like gifts at all, they seem awful. And then later at some point you're like, oh my gosh, what a gift. Thank you. You know, and actually one of the reasons I got on this journey by myself was because my partner, my boyfriend, left in a really dramatic fashion. And I actually did love him no matter what. Like I never stopped loving him, and I actually didn't even blame him, even though I did not agree with it. And I really felt hurt by what he did. And then I didn't want to do this journey on my own. I was never like mad at him. And then probably maybe 6 months after I left in 2017 on my journey, I just had this big epiphany. And that was probably the biggest epiphany I had on this journey, was how we don't understand what's happening. But again, it goes back to the name of my book, Perfect Unfolding. Like Jim had to do all that for himself and for me. He freed both of us.
Mm.
And I say, I imagine doing what I'm doing. Actually, I thought we'd be staying in campgrounds too. It wouldn't have been what I'm actually doing. But I thought I was going to do it with a partner, and I was really, really sad that I wasn't. And yet, this journey of all these years, it has been a modern day walkabout. Like I didn't know I was sending myself on a walkabout, but I was. And I am so thankful I had the space to be by myself, because I don't care how much I loved or how in cahoots I was with whoever I was with. I had to be alone. And that's actually, it's strange because it's the opposite of what I thought I wanted. I did not want to be alone. And years later, I look back and I say, oh my gosh, thank you for leaving me. Thank you for freeing me, because you didn't leave me, you freed me.
Mm.
And I hope he's just as free, but I had to go on this journey alone, and I didn't know it at the time. So all that angst and sorrow and grief I had for so many months, it was just a part of my journey. And later on, the universe was like, see, I had you this whole time. I know it was hard, but look what we've done. Look what we've seen. And we couldn't have done that if this didn't happen the way it did.
That's such a well-earned perspective that you've gotten over the years.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit more about your book.
Well, it's called Perfect Unfolding, and the subtitle is 7 Years of Life-Changing Adventures, 1 year that broke me open. And people have been asking me to write a book since 2018, since a year in. And I kept thinking, I don't know what I'll write a book about. I mean, cool. I live a strange, weird, incredible life. But at the same time, like, I don't know what the point of the book is. And I kept thinking it's the people I meet, because, oh my goodness, I mean, you're one of them, all the people and interactions and things I've learned and seen and felt and experienced through all these incredible humans that I've met all over the planet. And then just this magical year happened. And I didn't even realize how magical it was until December hit. And I was just like, I've got to write a book. And it was just not only the people I met, but the experiences I had. Like I literally, and for most people don't know, not only do I live in nature, but I generally have no clue where I'm headed. And this one year, I was going to visit some of my favorite people in Canada, friends I've had for 20 years. Their daughter's my goddaughter. I just love them like family. They are family. So that was my only point, is eventually I need to end up at their place. But then once I got there, I didn't know where I was going. And I felt tugged toward Labrador. I didn't even know Labrador was in Canada. If you would have asked me where Labrador is before, I would have said, I have no idea. Somewhere north, you know? So I just got this pull to Labrador. And I ended up going as far as the roads go on North America on the Atlantic coast. and then parking Kadi in my truck, and then hopping on a 3-day ferry that went to Inuit and Innu settlements.
Oh,
And
wow.
you end up all the way north, like across from Greenland. And then once I got as far north as the ferry go, I hired an Inuit guide, and he put me in his metal boat with a steel drum of fuel, like a 50-gallon drum, and a bunch of other tanks of fuel in this 90-foot metal boat. And we continued north in the Labrador Sea and went up to this Inuit settlement that is one of the most historically special places in all of Labrador, if not Canada. And so I had this beautiful experience there. And then I went to Newfoundland, and I got asked to go on a 3-day adventure on a commercial fishing boat, kind of like Deadliest Catch, but with fish. And then, I mean, I could go on. There's so many things that happened. And by December, I was just like, I got to write a book. And then I didn't know when to start the year. I'm like, do I do January 1st to January 1st? And then I suddenly realized the day it would begin, which was March 9th or May 19th. And you have to read the book to know why. But I realized in December that the previous May 19th was the beginning. And then what was really fun is I said, well, heck, I'm going to live out. I get to live the next 6 months of the book. And people kept asking me, how's your book going to end? I'm like, I have no idea. Like I'm a surprise. I'm going to be as surprised as you are. And then too, one other thing about this way of living is in 2019, I fell deeply in love with God and nature. And I realized I don't want a romantic partner. I went from really wanting to be with someone to just saying, gosh, I'm so in love with God, universe, nature. I couldn't even imagine. I don't even want, it would have to be such a special person. And I don't even know if I'd want it then. And I lived that way for, many years. And in this one special year, I fell in love twice. And that was another reason I was like, this book has to be a book. This story has to be a book. So there are adventures of the physical kind, there's adventures of the emotional kind. And it is by far the most incredible journey of my life. And I share it with I share things in this book that I'd never shared with another human. It's very raw and very, people have told me, like, super vulnerable. And it is. It was nervous. I was nervous putting this out in the world because of what I shared. So the reader gets to come on the ride with me and experience all of that. And that was my hope, is to write a book where you felt like you're in the passenger seat or even in the driver's seat. And from what I've heard it's it's that experience.
It's so great.
Yeah.
Well, you are honestly one of a kind and such a beacon for the rest of us to be willing to explore and be curious and let ourselves go on adventures instead of stay on the red wagon and go around the block.
Exactly. That's no fun. Yeah.
No. So, as we wrap up, which we'll have to do this again, of course, what would you like to leave your listeners knowing, and how can they find you?
Hmm. When you asked that, a quote, one of my quotes from the book popped up, and it's one of my favorites. And it's just very simple. On the pathless path, the way is waiting.
Mm,
And all of our ways are waiting, just
beautiful.
waiting for us. And we have no idea how beautiful and incredible and phenomenal the roller coaster ride can be. But that, just be willing to just take one step and then the next without having a clue where you're going to end up.
Preach it, sister.
Yeah. And I forget the second part. I'm sorry. I was so into the first part of the
No,
question.
it came through.
Yeah.
How can people find you? How can people
Okay.
find your book?
Cool. So my website is KristyH.com, KRISTYH.com. I'm on Instagram with my first and last name, Kristy.Halvorsen. And my book's called Perfect Unfolding, and perfectunfolding.com is where they can find that. It's on pre-sale now at most online booksellers and a few bookstores that I've been able to give books to. Yeah, so you can go check it out and take a read.
So great. Well, you know, I always love talking with you, and hearing about your adventures and your love of life. It's just so inspiring. So I can't wait to hear what happens next with you.
Oh, same with you. I've cherished all of our times when we've been physically together, and I always cherish our times just having conversations. You're a beautiful human, and thank you. Thank you.
Takes,
Thank you for wanting to be. What was that?
I was just going to say, takes one to know one.
It does. And thank you for the invite to be with you like this.
Oh, you're so welcome. And those of you who are watching or listening, thank you for joining us. And if you like what you see, come back for more. Thanks for so much of your time and energy, and bye for now. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to hit subscribe and leave us a comment. Your comment helps me reach more listeners. Thank you.